Firstly, from the VEC, we're very pleased and proud to kind of be part of the sustainability agenda with VIFF again. It's kind of been our pleasure to kind of work with all the partners to help bring some of these great people and kind of discussions together. I'm David Shepheard. I'm the Film Commissioner for the City of Vancouver, and it's a real pleasure to be here and discuss the growing commitment to adopting new practices in production and to highlight some of the leadership that specific organisations and cities from around the world are using. Here in Vancouver, all this sustainable production activity fits right into the City of Vancouver's goals to become the greenest city in the world by 2020. In 2011, the city outlined an action plan to achieve that goal, and by all accounts, we're on our way to achieving extremely good results across 10 goal areas, including Vancouver's green economy. This is an incredible statistics that I'm always still surprised to kind of use. Since 2007, the City of Vancouver's GDP has increased by 26%, while we've managed to cut the greenhouse gas emissions by 15%. That's really incredible. In this city, we've effectively decoupled economic growth from carbon-based activity, and the film and TV industry that we've been talking about today is such an incredibly important part of the economy. Vancouver is experiencing record numbers of filming, and that's similar across other cities across the Lower Mainland and right across the province, as we've heard. With mainstream on-set practices still looking to adapt new sustainable techniques, and whilst technology is still helping to catch up and help that, the impact of productions in this region is really important. So there's a lot to learn, and some of that discussions are happening today, which is fantastic. But there's much to do on-set and off-set to change practices, even to turn waste generated by industry into shared resources and usable by the next productions and other kind of businesses and organisations across our regions. But there's also an opportunity to set that direction now by the people and organisations who set policy that governs the industry. In this session today, we're going to hear from people responsible for setting high-level policy and discussions in the film and TV industry in their various regions and cities from across the world. And some are directly working with policymakers to ensure that policy in those cities and best practices sets realistic standards for our fast-paced industry so that there's a collaboration going forward. So as part of this discussion, we're really delighted today to kind of bring in some of our international kind of friends and partners from across the world. I'm going to introduce them one at a time, and then we'll go into a short introductions by each individual person, and they have their own small presentations. So first, I'm delighted to introduce Ken Ebie. I need to take a deep breath for this because he has a very long title. He's the Deputy General Counsel and Director of External Affairs from the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. You must have a business card this long. Sitting next to Ken is Luca Ferrario, who's the Director of the Trentino Film Fund and also the Vice President of the Italian Film Commissions. Next to Luca is Sophie Delorme, who's the Vice Director of Environmental Responsibility at France Télévisions, who's one of the state broadcasters from France, and he's also the co-founder of EcoProd, which is a fantastic scheme that's based out of the Ile-de-France region in France. Next to Sophie is Amy Lemisch, who's the Executive Director of the California Film Commission, and we're really pleased that she's with us today. And finally is Paul Evans, who's the co-founder of Green Shoots, which is a production sustainability scheme in London, and also works very closely with Film London, who's the media development agency looking after all the sectors to do with the film industry. So please join me in welcoming them to the stage. Okay, so to kind of give a bit more of an in-depth introduction from their various areas and the kind of places where they represent, we're going to go along the line one at a time. So, Ken, I'll hand the floor over to you.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, David, and the Vancouver Economic Commission for inviting me to participate in this very important forum. I am, as David mentioned, from the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. And I was tasked early on by our Commissioner, Julie Menon, with developing and implementing a sustainability program for New York City's TV and film production industry. So just to kind of set it up, I wanted to show you a 30-second PSA which we produced to communicate to the public the existence of this program and what it means. And after we watch that film, then I'll give you a quick rundown of some of the details from our program, how it was set up, and what we have achieved in our pilot program thus far. So if the gentleman could please cue that video.
Some of New York's most famous shows are Going Green, with America's first government-sponsored sustainable film program.
It's really no different than working on a regular set. We're doing some good stuff. We've donated 4,000 meals to food banks.
Since starting with NYC Film Green, divorce has diverted about 60% of our waste stream.
Sesame Street, we actually found the Green Initiative to reduce the budget and not increase it.
It's voluntary, it's easy. Shoot for the mark and let the world know that your show is going green.
What are you waiting for? Go green! Scram!
So that was a PSA that we produced just to get the word out about the existence of this program. Now, sustainability is a major issue, and it's fortunately an issue that's gaining traction in the television and film production community, and there's been a lot of very good work done by many people in this room and who are participating in this forum. We wanted to have the city government get involved on this issue from a policy standpoint, and we thought that it was a wonderful opportunity to do so. So there are a couple things I think came together that made this the ideal time to do it. First of all, I think it was one of the facts that we were very much aware of is the fact that television production, in particular in New York City, here we go, is at an all-time high in New York. The 2016-2017 season had 56 episodic television shows filmed in New York City. So with this increase in production, and it's increased over the past 10 years, the commissioner felt that it was incumbent on our agency to really take a close look at how we could encourage more sustainable production practices in New York City. So initially, the conversation and the task was set up a sustainability program for these industries that will encourage those productions that are looking to film more sustainably to do so and provide them with the tools, but also provide recognition to those television shows and those feature films that are already ascribing to some of these practices. And so we really used as a guide the European Community for Sustainable Film and TV's definition of a sustainable production, which really talks about the continual reduction of carbon emissions, makes a point to have your production share sustainability values from the top down, everybody involved, and really, importantly, one which has a positive impact on the people and the places in which that production is based. So we came up initially in June of 2016. We had a roundtable discussion that involved a whole slew of people involved in the industry. We had sustainability representatives from the major networks and studios. We had sustainability consultants. We had the owners of the major sound stages and producers and directors who were keen on filming, shooting in sustainable ways. In addition to that, we had some representatives from city government agencies, such as the Department of Environmental Protection, the Sanitation Department, Mayor's Office of Sustainability, and it was led by our office and our Commissioner, Julie Menon. So coming out of that conversation, we had a sense of a program that we wanted to institute that would essentially provide productions with the opportunity to highlight the fact that they were filming green. And so NYC Film Green, first and foremost, as I heard on one of the prior panels, it really aims to make sure that productions are tracking their carbon emissions. And this is one of the primary requirements that is fulfilled by use of a tracking tool which we received from good people at the PGA. The Green Production Guide Carbon Calculator, the PAIR, is the tool that we are asking all productions to use to track their sustainability efforts. And we have several categories, 7 categories that have the requirements for the Film Green program, running the gamut from carbon emissions, which is essentially using a document to track the carbon emissions, waste diversion efforts, transportation, committing productions to a sustainability plan for transportation, waste reduction, energy use, reducing energy use, and sustainable sourcing, and importantly, educating everybody involved with the production and communicating to everyone the importance of getting on board with these practices. So essentially what we do is, in exchange for receiving that information and reviewing it and verifying that the productions that have applied have essentially carried out all these requirements, we issue to them the NYC Film Green Mark of Distinction, which is this beautiful green logo here, which they can then put on their end credits and in all marketing and promotional materials. And what it really is aimed to do is to provide an extra level of recognition for productions that are doing the right thing, helping them to establish themselves as real leaders in the sustainability movement. But most importantly, we have found that it actually does encourage and result in some tangible results of reducing waste and decreasing the carbon footprint of each production. So how did we get this information? We essentially worked with a sustainability consultant, Earth Angel, I believe Emily's in the room right now, to develop a pilot program, which included 3 productions that we're shooting in New York City. Now, the only requirements for productions to participate in Film Green are that they shoot at least 1 day within the 5 boroughs of New York City. This is a voluntary program, so we're not making this a requirement or a condition of receiving a film permit from our office, as we do issue over 15,000 film permits a year for production. It's not a mandatory thing, but for productions that want to participate, we do have a set of requirements, some of which are mandatory, some of which are elective, and some of which are extra credit for those that go above and beyond. And so we had a pilot program which involved 3 productions. It was a 6-month, not an 8-month, a 6-month pilot program, and it involved these 3 productions: Madam Secretary from CBS, Divorce from HBO, and Sesame Street. And we saw some very good results over the course of 6 months. We were able to, these productions, in participating in NYC Film Green, were able to reduce the use of single-use water bottles by 94,520. There were over 80 pounds of set materials and props that were donated to organizations that could repurpose them. And we had, through the encouragement of using recycled paper, 48 trees that were saved, and over 7,500 meals that were donated to New Yorkers in need. So this was, mind you, 3 productions over the course of 6 months. Again, New York City had 56 television productions in the 2016-2017 season. So we absolutely believe that if we get more productions to sign on to this, we will continue along the path of significantly reducing the carbon footprint of this important industry. It's a significantly important industry to our city's economy, and that is a very important feature for us, to make this as easy as possible for productions to participate. But we believe it'll have a significant impact on reducing the carbon footprint of these productions in the industry in New York.
Great, thanks very much, Ken. Luca, do you want to just give us a quick overview of the programs that you're working on, sort of with your different organizations in Italy?
Yes, thank you everybody for coming. Thanks for having me here today. Sorry for my bad English. I come from this region in the north of Italy, in the very north of Italy, Trentino. It's a very green place in terms of nature and in terms of sustainability spirits, let's say. This is not this one though. But it looks
it's
like.
Still mountains.
It looks like. We opened this film fund a few years ago, so it's pretty new, and we have we are having an increasing number of shooting days in the region, which is of course very good for us in terms of economic reasons, for promotional reasons, but it also brought new issues to face, and one of these was the sustainability one.
We got your slides now.
Yeah, that's Trentino. So we decided to combine this green spirit we have with the film industry, proposing something, creating something to propose to the producer that decide to come over. So we create this T-green film system. Sorry, did I take the? No, I didn't. Which is a system that involves 3 different steps. Okay. The first one is the rating system. So it's this one, you can find it somewhere outside this room. It's basically a list of green actions you can take while you are working on a set, involving energy saving, transportation, catering, waste management, all these things that every checklist involves. And we propose this to our producer when they want to apply to the film fund, and they can elect to use this rating system, and they can tell us what kind of action they are willing to take while they're working. Nobody can do all of them, of course, but according to your film, you can decide what you can do and what you cannot do. And according to this, to what they tell us, we evaluate the project in a different way from this year because we change our regulations. So we evaluate a film based on the script, based on the promotional value, based on what kind of actor and director it has. And now we also look if they ask for the certification or not, and how many action they are willing to take on set. Which means they receive a different points and an extra contribution, so an higher contribution. During the shooting and after the shooting, we got another public office involved, which is our local agency for the environment protection. They are in charge of the verification. So they will help producer, they will follow them, and they will release or not the certification at the end of the shooting. If they do release the certification, we confirm our extra contribution. So it's I think a very simple way to get started and to give a simple tool to the producer and some easy instruction. And we also give this kind of small award at the end. We've been working on this for a couple of years so far, and we started officially at the beginning of 2017. So you were able to ask for the certification from the first call of this year, which was in February. And the question was, does anybody care about this? Because in Italy it's not a very big issue. So does anybody care? And I was expecting about 20% of the application asking to be certified. And we received like almost 60% of the application. So 60% asked for using this rating system. So that was a big surprise, and it means that they were open to that. They just didn't know what to do and how. So we gave them this simple instruction, and they were really open to that, even though it wasn't at first like very, very. I don't know how to say in English that. It's not very important to them, not the first problem they think about when they're producing a film. But once they found out about this, they were really happy about it.
Great. That's really encouraging to see that it's a new scheme and people were voluntary wanting to be part of it. We've been hearing earlier about what are the drivers, what are the kind of impetus to make production do it, and it's really encouraging to hear that productions are now coming to you and wanting to be part of the scheme. Yeah. Thanks very much. Sophie, we'll turn over to you.
Yeah, so thank you for having me here, and sorry for my English, and so I will be very short so that you won't suffer long. So I'm working for French television, and a part of my work is to help people to reduce their carbon, their environmental impact for French television, and that's why we create with other stakeholders a collective initiative which is called EcoProd. It's quite similar to BAFTA, but it's really we are less numerous than in the BAFTA collective. So I will show you a few slides and a short film, and if you want later we could discuss each other. So let's go. EcoProd. We don't know. You don't know us. So anyway, it's a private and public actor. So we merged together 9 years ago, and so. What we are doing, we've got three main goals, which are to provide tools and to help production to get into, so to inform them and to educate. So that's not very original, so I go on. And the tool we've got that's quite similar to the one you've heard of. So we've got a calculator and guidelines, and you could, if you speak French, go to EcoPod.com and you will see all our stuff, and that's great stuff. So you should go there. And also guidelines, okay. It's our calculator. So Jeremy talked about Albert. Our is named Carbon Clap, and it's a nice one, but for French people. So it's quite similar on the way it's the way it's called. Works, thank you. So, okay, and we also give, that's not a label, that's a mark, a logo when you're shooting, when your film, your TV series is going through this program, you can put a logo on your credits. So, and also we launched a few years ago a charter for the supplier and for the company which are providing green products for TV and cinema. So, okay, that's our website address, and maybe we could look at a short film that we made a few years ago to alert people on what we wanted to do.
Great. Can we run that tape, please?
Hey, did I tell you next Monday I start the new Jean-Paul Bizon movie, Eyes of a Murderer, with Julie Arfon, Jamel Lesbos, Maria Motillon?
Wow, it's your lucky break. What's the pitch?
A murder mystery set in the French Revolution. A mega production. Are you listening? Where are you?
Yeah, right. Heavy stuff. And what about the footprint?
Footprint? What are you talking about?
What about the ecological footprint?
I see the ecological footprint. You know me in ecology. See this coat? Well, it's made in France. Organic cotton.
I meant the production. There's a lot of waste on the movie.
Okay, I'll stop you there. It's complex enough already. We manage tight schedules, transport of heavy equipment, the egos of stars.
Okay. You have no time to lose.
No, ma'am.
But there are tools. EcoPod. Ever heard of EcoPod?
Hey, quit it. I'm really ticklish.
Think. What are the things you can improve on? Use your lofty head.
Well, I think we can make improvements on transport.
Uh-huh.
We could optimize it with car sharing and public transport. Plus, lighting's a real money pit.
There you are. You're turning EcoProd. It builds team spirit and reduces costs. And catering's important on a shoot too, isn't it?
Of course it is. Food can give the troops a real boost. Plus, if it's brought in by a local provider.
Hey, you're getting there.
Oh, I'm just so awesome. Hey, you got that.
Hey, don't play Mr. Big Shot. Visit the EcoProd site for tools and tips on how to reduce your footprint.
Okay, I'll visit it, but I want to leave my hoof print. I'm a true pro and now an expert.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Sophie. Now we're kind of turn over to Amy, so visiting us from California, that big production center down south.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Hello. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here. This has been an incredible couple days here, talking to all of my colleagues. I don't have a snazzy video to show, so I'll just chat with you all. Just a little brief intro on the California Film Commission. Not everybody knows what we do. I mean, we do operate like, I think most film commissions around the world. We offer a variety of services to support productions of all sizes and shapes, locations and permitting and problem solving. We do run an incentive program as well. Out of my shop, we don't actually mandate policy or but we are in California, and California is a leader for the United States in environmental policies, I'm pleased to say. And we have we're very highly regulated. We have a lot of laws that do govern this. We have a goal to reach 50% renewable energy by 2030. We have very strict emission standards for cars and diesel, and luckily we do have this because I think it's 16 other states that have followed our lead and adopted California standards, which are more strict than the national standards. So it sort of drives, we're a big influencer in the country because it drives the automobile manufacturers, because we are the most populous state with 39 million people, and we have a lot of cars, and they want to sell their cars to us. So it does drive the development of their hybrid vehicles and fuel efficiency standards and all of that. So it's sort of, it impacts not just California, but the rest of the country, is what I want to say. We also have cap and trade legislation. We have, we've had to have very, very stringent water conservation regulations because we've had such a horrible drought and water crisis. Sorry. I'm excited by this topic, if you can't tell. And how does that trickle down to productions? I'm also fortunate in that we are the home to the entertainment industry. We have all the major studios home-based in California. Thankfully, they all have their own initiatives and have banded together to have a uniform set of these checklists, and they're working very closely with PGA Green, the Producers Guild of America, so that it's uniform. Everyone can go, they move from one production to the next, and they can all have the same set of standards that they're trying to achieve. So we can just point to them and use their tools and try and encourage productions, to do more. I think the biggest challenge for us is with the independent producers who are not reporting to a studio overseer, and getting them to come on board. It is a challenge. They have tight budgets, and every little penny, they're watching every penny. So that's a challenge for us where I think we can be influential. We do work with a lot of independent productions, commercial productions, student productions. So really, I think that should be our focus to get them on board.
Great. I think this question around sort of like the policies that the states and kind of cities are kind of coming up with and going forward with across the whole of the community is an interesting thing to pick up on, and how it would impact. But first, Paul, do you want to just give us an overview of Green Sheets and your work in London, please?
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak here. I'm from an organisation, well, that's a big word. I'm from a tiny company called Green Shoot, which is essentially we're a bunch of filmmakers who in 2009 reached a point whereby we decided that something had to be done about the state of the industry in London because it was so wasteful and so unsustainable. So we formed this company called Green Shoot and supported lots of productions over the next few years. And in 2014, started a partnership with Film London, who are the body for London to encourage film and inward investment. And as a byproduct of that, we worked on their green screen program, which they initiated in 2008, and then in 2014, we looked to find a way that we could actually bring that forward and just develop it further. Thank you. And as crew members ourselves, we thought that the best strategy to go forward was to actually aim at crew. So start, if you like, from the bottom down. So create a program that was incredibly simple to implement from a production's perspective, something you can do on your smartphone, but something that had a kind of a rigor and a structure to it that could introduce people to the idea of sustainable filming, which to many people, certainly crew in London, is still a little bit of a mystery. So we introduced this program which has a green, silver and gold level, so gold being full sustainability. Currently productions are focused on the green level. And as I say, it is very much an educational platform. This is introducing an idea that to many is science fiction, the idea that you can create a film and make it in a sustainable way, reduce your carbon, but also reduce your costs as well, which is something that producers seem to quite like. So through Film London, oversee the 15,000 filming days in London a year, and a significant majority of those are engaged in the programme. These are some of the people that we've worked with, and there's a lot of the other interesting area that we've gone into is we're working with advertising agencies who work with their corporate clients. So people like Unilever, who's obviously their whole mission statement is predicated on a whole CSR platform, were not actually, when it came to production, do anything about it. So now we're working on Unilever Productions and a variety of other kind of big brands that previously had shot in a totally unsustainable way, which was an irony that we pointed out very nicely. But it's actually quite well kind of it's finishing the circle for them in terms of their corporate kind of strategy and engagement. And as I say, a big part of it, it's a kind of, if you like, in some senses, it's a people-based program. It's about educating crew. It's also we initiated in 2014 a Green Runner training program, which is a one-day course, which is designed for people who want to get into the industry. And it is notoriously difficult to get into the film industry. If you're not the son of Ridley Scott, then it's really a very hard process, and it's always been it's always been an area of controversy in the sense that, where is the diversity? How can I, as somebody who's living in Bolton, for example, and love film and want to get in, have access to that? Well, what we've done is initiated this training program, which is open to everyone, irrespective of background or experience. And what we do is we train them as green runners. So then when they go out, and apply for positions, and because of the fact that so many more productions are green productions, then the necessity for green stewards has grown. So we have a whole load of people who we've put onto productions and have gone from being people who are desperate to get into the industry, who are now actively employed. One being Lydia there, who was the green runner on The Crown, which was a bit of an ordeal by fire because it was an 8-month shoot. But she was the green runner on that, and now she's just on the 2nd season of The Crown, and she was the 3rd AD on that. So, it's a training ground for people to get to know and understand a film set and get and understand what they want to do within the production. And also those other rather glamorous photographs are part of our examples of donations, which we're running into something nearly £100,000 worth of donations over the last 5 years that we've taken or been given by productions, then passed on to charities. So we have a whole bunch of charity partners, and they will come and collect those items, whatever they are, therefore saving the production on removal costs and then benefiting the charity, which seems like a very nice virtuous circle. I think my 5 minutes, isn't it?
That's great. Thanks, Paul. So we wanted to kind of just delve into this question around policy. You all work or kind of aligned with organizations that are kind of there or involved or kind of setting policy either for cities or kind of the regions that you work in. And I'm kind of interested to kind of see, discuss that kind of point whereby are you getting pressure from your policymakers and kind of your political masters to kind of look at the film industry and say, we need to do something better or kind of enact something that's going to make the industry more greener? I guess this could be a question both for Amy and Ken, sort of, in California, which you mentioned is kind of setting the standard across America, is there discussions around what are we doing with the film industry and making it more sustainable from a policy perspective?
Sadly, I have to confess the answer is no. I mean, there isn't anything specific towards our particular industry. It's more of, like I said, the overall policies that affect, emissions, reduction of waste, and all of those things. So I think that's something that, again, thankfully, our studio partners are being at the forefront of that with the corporate social responsibility. Thank goodness that they're doing it, because it does influence everyone down the chain. And so we're working with. So it is a huge industry for us. We call it our signature industry. It generates $30 billion of spending a year in California, but it's not the #1 industry. And it's very diverse. We have huge agriculture issues. So I think it really has to come from the industry itself rather than the government mandating what they need to do.
Sure. And Ken, somewhere like New York, obviously a major metropolis, kind of, all the kind of issues that kind of go with a city of that size. Is there specific things that are coming up in conversations around the entertainment industry as a wider kind of element?
Well, around the entertainment industry, I would echo what Amy's saying. Specifically from the government, no. And that, I think, I would say is not a problem. I think that overall, there is definitely an appreciation of the urgency and the need to address climate change. Our mayor, Bill de Blasio, upon his election, issued a plan called One NYC, which addressed a number of the long-term structural issues that our city government should be looking to address over time. And this is going beyond his, hopefully, 8 years in office. And so in addition to changing and improving aging infrastructure and addressing the aging population in New York City and the changing economy and workforce in New York City, climate change was one of the key components of that report. And so very early on, after my boss, Julie Menin, the commissioner, came into office, she essentially had free reign and the ability to push for a program which really addressed sustainability concerns in the film and TV industry specifically. And so I would say while the pressure from the top is not specific to the industry, there is a definite appreciation of the need. And so the mayor, as you may have heard in June, issued an executive order that was committing New York City to carrying out some of the dictates of the Paris Climate Agreement. And just yesterday, actually, our city was the first city in the world to issue a plan that specifically addressed how New York City would tackle the challenge to reduce climate change. And so that was a pretty major thing, but it's clearly in line with overall what our efforts are in our office. And so, yeah, that was very much an open decision, and our commissioner said this is something that we need to develop for the industry specifically.
Sure. I think what's interesting now as well is that convergence point whereby industry's really taking a proactive stance, and led by our kind of friends in the major companies and studios to kind of make production see it in a different way. I'm interested in that point that the film and television industry, specifically in our city and many other cities, is such a big part of the economy now, and it's so visible. It's on the streets. shoots. It's kind of, in everybody's faces. That I'm interested in how as policymakers and as cities we can work more closely with the industry to kind of bring them along, because they are trying hard to change their practices. And how can we use that example from the industry to say to our policymakers, look, the industry is really trying to commit to the environmental standards that you've set, the ambitions that you've set for your city and your regions. Is from London's point of view, is that something?
Absolutely. I mean, from a London perspective, with regards to policy, there is no policy, no specific policy as such that applies to filmmaking in the capital. I mean, essentially, it's run by the boroughs. I mean, 32 boroughs all have their own film offices, and every production has to go through their office to get their permits, etc. So the idea from Green Screen was a gradual awareness and educational kind of program that said to the boroughs, and we've had lots of very good meetings with them, introducing them the idea that production should have a way of filming that is sustainable, because there have been occasional issues around production, shooting too late, generators on at 1 in the morning, etc. And this would be a way for them to validate that production from a sustainability perspective. We are going to behave when we film in Trafalgar Square because we've signed up to this program. So the initial enthusiasm is still there. It can't be mandated because you don't want any reason to deter a production from filming in London, but it is very much on the radar now of productions. They are aware that it exists, and it has a profile now, and the boroughs are gradually pushing it more and more and saying, well, look, we have this program, it's up to you. It's a voluntary system, but if you'd like to engage, that's great. And people are starting to do it. Yeah. It's a long-term program, but we are making definite progress. Yeah.
And Sophie, we've been hearing about BAFTA's collaboration with all the broadcasters, all kind of committing to the Albert scheme. Are you seeing similar commitments from France Télévisions and the other partners from broadcasters? Are they being more proactive in requiring productions to look at more sustainable practices?
Yeah, we are not so far, but I think that in the future that we will also make mandatory to have a carbon footprint for all our programs, the one we make and the one we buy. So that's in the pipe. But for France, and as we are in the common European Union, we've got also a lot of laws, and so film industry, as other company, has to tackle that, and they are not specific on that plan.
And look, are people across your partner regions across Italy, are they looking towards the examples that you've been setting in the Trentino area? Is that something that's getting lots of exposure?
Yeah, fortunately, yes, because like I said before, we became the first regional film fund in Europe that is able to give both the certification and the extra contribution. So it's something that got the interest of many other colleagues. So I'm talking with many other film funds in Italy and also in the rest of Europe that are interested in trying to adopt the same system, because it's very easy to copy, let's say. Yeah. And when we started from two considerations at the beginning about the policies. And the first one is that if you want to change something in a sector, it's probably easier if you start where the money comes from. So not from from the film funds, because we give money, so we have a kind of power to ask for something back. And the other consideration we did is that we all want to change the world, but we cannot do it today or tomorrow. We need to create a very, very easy first step, because many people told me you shouldn't give them extra money because they just need to do this. Yes, it's true. One day I will take this money off probably, and they told me you need to make it mandatory. One day, it's a long-term process. One day it may be, but now it needs to be very simple to understand, because producers have so many things they need to take care about. It needs to be very simple to understand, very simple to do. basically what we ask is just to do all the things that we already do in our houses every day, just move it on set. That's it. What kind of light are you using? How do you use your water? What kind of waste management you do? Just do the same thing on set.
Yep.
And it's so easy to understand that, and that's why they say, okay, that's fine.
That's very interesting. As a fairly new resident of Vancouver, I get lots of stickers every week on my recycling boxes from the recycling men telling me to try harder. So I'm getting there. To Vancouver standards, it's not quite UK standards, it's a lot higher. But that's an interesting point, that we do this at home. We don't think twice about recycling our tins and bottles and kind of other waste apart, but you get on into your working environment, and certainly, lots of us all have recycling trash bins and kind of encouraged to do it.
At the beginning, it was very, very tiring, very, I need to separate paper, what is this? But now it's so common, so obvious that you don't want to mix them anymore. You don't want to.
I mean, as Lydia was talking earlier on, it's a change in culture which changes people's attitudes.
Yeah.
So a question to you guys, how can you see policy setting, even light touch policy, help to change a culture? Because sometimes that's what's needed to kind of make that step change. Has anyone got any thoughts on that?
Well, I think our approach with NYC Film Green is that we want that mark, we want that logo to be something that people become familiar with and that they look for. We think that, on the industry side, it will help to create a healthy competition for those productions that are already doing this good work. We want to make sure that they're acknowledged for that, and they can actually, show the rest of the industry that they are doing that work with the logo placement. We're hoping that people will hopefully, wait till the end of the end credits and see the NYC Film Green logo, and then look for that in their favorite shows and their favorite movies. And so, when you talk about culture change, I think that we've really looked at this program as being something that would impact culture from two directions, from the industry and most importantly, from the perspective of the audience. So, that they're aware that this is happening, that a production can be done in a more sustainable fashion, and there's that pressure to want to be a part of that movement.
I guess in your various regions as well, is there any examples of other industries that you've been aware of or highlighted that are doing sustainable practices, that are doing good things moving forward? I mean, Amy, you mentioned about the car industry and how important that sector is. Is there any other sectors that kind of policymakers look to and hold up as a good example of being more sustainable?
I think the building industry is right, and I don't know if they have the thing, LEED certification and all that here. Well, you do, it's Vancouver, right? All this construction going on that building we were in yesterday. So I think that's certainly one of the industries. The automobile manufacturers, that's not necessarily California industry, but we're influencing the products that they are generating. Right, for everyone in the world.
And I guess it's kind of to a community question again as well. I mean, are you in your various offices or various kind of areas kind of getting questions from the community about, is this a sustainable practice? Or I've seen them kind of putting stuff in dumpsters that they shouldn't. I'm just interested from that point of view. Are the community getting more interested in seeing film crews kind of working on the streets and how they operate? I mean, from your point of view, from production, have you had that?
Yeah, I mean, up to a point, I think. I mean, from a bypasser's perspective, it's who's the star, not who's the green steward. But, I think there's a...
Yeah, they'll get there.
They'll get, yeah, but there's a sense, as again, I think we keep going back to this concept of, cultural shift. And that's what's happening. And I think the Green Steward program, there are other people doing it as well, but we've trained nearly 200 people who now have a way of filming that is embedded in their ideology. So the green stewards of today are the producers of tomorrow. So they'll have no other way of approaching a film other than in a sustainable way. So that's guaranteeing the future. So in terms of the way that impacts with policy, is that, well, irrespective of whether London instigates some kind of policy above and beyond what they've done, which isn't very much, the people who are actually making those productions, they're saying, well, look, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. So it's not coming from City Hall, it's coming from the industry itself. And I think that there's there's a virtue in that, and there's hopefully a logical conclusion to that, is that in a X number of years that there'll be no need to have a kind of a green screen program as such, because people will have learnt the ways of making a film in a sustainable fashion.
Amy?
It's a good question. I don't see it where, the neighborhoods they're concerned about, where are you parking the generator and why are you blocking my driveway, right? Not, oh, where are their recycling bins and what are they doing? But I think that this initiative to sort of have that stamp of approval that, yes, maybe some people will stay to the end of the credits and actually see that. Once that becomes normalized and people look for that, I think that it will change, but I'm not seeing that now, not from the communities where people are filming.
So from that, so with the mark that's used, and I should say we're going to come to questions from the floor, so please get your sort of important questions together. Ken, with the mark that you're using, are you seeing productions use that whilst they're on set, saying this is a green production, this is our mark, to kind of show that we're being more responsible and sustainable whilst doing our work?
Well, the way the program is set up is that productions can enroll in the program. They do not get the right to use the logo until they have demonstrated they've successfully completed. So they're not using that mark or that logo on set, at their craft services table or on the production vehicles, possibly not until after that season has been cleared and they have been given the right to use that.
I'm just wondering when productions kind of write to communities and say, look, we're coming into your town, we'll try and be respectful, whether there's some way that productions can say, we are operating in this way, we're trying to be more sustainable with our practices, whether that's an added point for your communities to say this is why we support them and that's why you have some of those stress points, just that extra thing, like we were saying, communities are having to do recycling and think about sustainability, that would help the industry to kind of up their presence in that subject with communities.
Absolutely, and we're looking for ways, we do work with some of the major studios that film in New York City that have been quite thoughtful, good stewards, good neighbors when they come and shoot, and that, upon leaving will do something for that community, whether it's planting trees or whether it's, making contributions to a local, soup kitchen or whatever it is. So we're hoping that we can kind of encourage, a lot of the complaints that I get have to do with some of the quality of life impacts of the industry. There are too many trucks on my block and they're taking up parking, or the streets have been closed off because they're shooting some major feature film, or unfortunately the crew has left garbage on our block and they haven't come to pick it up. So those are the types of complaints we get. And we're hoping that we can actually incorporate in the extra credit requirements for Film Green a mentality that some of these give-backs that the studios already give to the communities will incorporate sustainable production and communicate what they're doing in the area of sustainability.
Okay, that's great. Questions from the floor? Anybody? Yes, please. I think there's a mic on its way down to you.
Hi, I'm Emily O'Brien from Earth Angel in New York City. And my question is, of course, there's the controversial debate topic of carbon tax in the sustainability community. And as influencers of policy, often we debate the carrot or the stick methods, of course. And I guess from Luca specifically, but also anybody really, how you landed on the incentive program, which I applaud you for, and being the first to do that, that's pretty remarkable. How you landed on that versus potentially taxing productions for their environmental impact and what that might mean and the implications of something like that. Just curious if those conversations have bubbled up at all or if there's any thoughts on that.
Amy?
I'll go first. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. We are in a friendly competition here to get productions to come to our regions, and we're hesitant to do anything that's going to give a production a reason not to come. So that would be something that would be extremely challenging for me as a film commissioner to support, because we're trying to welcome them and draw production in because of all the economic impact that they bring and the jobs and all of that. So I don't see a film commission, taking that route. Again, I think it's the influencing their decisions, encouraging them, this sort of peer pressure mentality. Oh, this is how we do it here. It is the way I see it going for us.
Luca, you wanted to come in on
Yeah, I think I already answered to this question, because I don't want to present this like another problem for producer. I just want to get them involved. They need to like this thing, to be happy to be part of something new. Otherwise, it's just like, nobody would come to my region, and I need to have them there. So I can just say, like she was saying, you don't come in if you don't work this way, because it's not going to work. That's the first step. Please come in and work this way. You will get an award. And then we will change it. We have time to develop this and make it better than that, because I know it can be much better than that. But I think, at least in Italy, that's the right way to start.
If I just can say something, I think that also there is a bigger reputational risk now for companies that won't follow this program, because as we see, there are a lot of programs in UK, in everywhere. So if you're coming somewhere and you say, well, I don't bother and I don't give, no way. I think that's improving.
And sorry, if I can add something. Working this way, producers become very proud of what they're doing. So they start communicate that. I have some producer making special backstage about the green set, about they work in a green way, and because they were part of this project. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done this.
Yeah, I'd echo what everybody said on the panel on that. It's definitely the carrot, not the stick, from our perspective.
Great stuff. So I'm getting the wind-up signal. So what's next is lunchtime, so I don't want to keep you too far away from that. But more importantly, it's a good networking session. I personally would like to thank all of our guests who's kind of flown in from quite a long way away. They're just over their jet lag, and we've put them on stage to make them look at everybody. But please do use the time to kind of talk to them individually and get some more information. That's what this whole session was about, is sharing that information, and that's been a real positive thing for me. Colleagues and friends from the studios all collaborating and sharing information, and likewise people from all around the world who kind of really want to work together to make our industry a lot more sustainable. So thank you, everybody, and enjoy your lunch.